Okay. All right. Like all the classes this week, dedicated to the loving memory of Dina Bas Devoira, Shamash and Aliyah. And we'll speak, as I mentioned to you before, we'll speak about more about the passing of a soul from the body into the next world in a couple of weeks when we speak about Yaakov Avinu, Yaakov's passing. The Gemara has a very interesting statement. It says that Yaakov Avinu lo meis. It says Jacob, our forefather, never passed away, which is a bizarre statement because the only time in the Torah do we find a lengthy description of a burial process, a burial ceremony, is by Jacob. So there's no doubt that Jacob was buried. But nevertheless, the Talmud insists that Yaakov Avinu lo meis, that he didn't die. And it's going to have to do with our perspective on life, perspective of the body, and perspective of this world. And I believe it's life-changing. So we'll get to that in a couple of weeks. But tonight, I want to touch upon the essence of the Torah. The essence of the Torah is Chassidus. We don't, Chabad doesn't just claim that. It's claimed by many, if not all now. You see that Chassidus once was the forefront, was the center of attention, negative attention, that the Jewish world very much was against Chassidus and Chassidism, the Baal Shem Tov, Yisrael Baal Shem Tov, and especially the Alter Rebbe, who went to jail. He went to jail. He was thrown into jail by what's called the mitnagdim, the opponents of Chassidus, mainly those in the country of Lithuania. The city of Lithuania. The city of Lithuania, right? Wait, Lithuania, Latvia, Lithuania. Yeah, country of Lithuania. In Vilna, country of Lithuania. City of Vilna, which is where he came from. And that's why his Rebbe, his mentor, sent him to spread Chassidus there. Go back to your hometown. You know the people. You know the terrain. And everything needs to be approached logically over there. And you'll be able to spread Chassidus. And he did so very successfully, but with tremendous opposition. And the Gemara tells us many times that how do you know if you're doing something that's really going to change the world? If you face opposition right away. That's why sometimes God does a kindness, and when he brings something great, life-changing, cataclysmic, I don't know why I keep using that word. He will hide it into the, when he brings it into the world, it'll be hidden in a very seemingly bizarre, negative way. Like we speak many times, the Mashiach comes from a lot of bizarre relationships, incestuous relationships, a lot of converts, which is not bizarre, but it's just, you wouldn't think, right? It's kind of unusual. You would think, oh, this pedigree of going all the way back, perfect pedigree, going back to Abraham. No, Mashiach doesn't come that way. Mashiach, the ultimate king, the one who will usher in a new era, the final era, the proper era, what we've all been waiting for, what Adam and Eve set into motion all those years ago, will come about to this guy, kind of came through these weird relationships. And why is that? Because if it came through the natural means, the natural channels, there would not only be tremendous opposition, but there would be advantage. People would take advantage of the situation. Now, these are spiritual ideas. They require lengthy discussions. But as we always say, and I've said many times, the mashal, the parable, that a rock star, goes into a concert, he can't go through the front door. He goes to the front door, people take advantage. They'll want to take a picture with him. Some people are psychotic and they'll punch him in the face just to say they punched him in the face. It would be too much. She's got to come in through a back door. So you should go through the front door. You got to go. The star of the show has to go through some back door, some dank alley, to get in the back where nobody's going to see him. It's going to be dark, dank. Same thing over here with Mashiach. So, and the same thing with Chassidus. Chassidus, however, came a little bit more revealed. And because it became a little bit more revealed, it didn't really come in such a hidden way. Now, it remained hidden for a very long time. We know that the Rashbi, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who wrote the Zohar, would teach Chassidus, would teach the Zohar in a much more practical way. And there was sparks of Chassidus in it. And then ultimately those sparks were, what happens is those teachings were then passed on to other students, but select students. Not everybody was able to, they wouldn't teach it to most people, because most people would perhaps not deal with it properly, or they would take advantage of it, use it out for their own good, whatever it is. However, these are spiritual ideas. I don't fully appreciate them, but perhaps with time we'll really appreciate them. And it was passed on from student to teacher in secret society, so to speak. And then the Arizal in Tzfas sort of took it to a new level and spread it out a little bit more, became a little bit more widespread, which he had opposition. It was opposition. But the Baal Shem Tov really took it to a new level, which there was tremendous opposition, in comparison at least to the Alter Rebbe, to the Arizal. But nevertheless, it was still part of this somewhat secret society. Certainly never written down until the Alter Rebbe came, and the Alter Rebbe began saying little discourses, more expansive discourses than what the Baal Shem Tov would say, and began writing down Likutei Torah, what became Likutei Torah, Torah Or, and ultimately the Tanya. The Tanya is 53 chapters, at least the first part of Tanya, Sefer Shel Beinanim, 53 chapters, which correspond to the 53 days that he was in jail. We'll find the connection to that. Why is that connected? But he wrote it down. Why did he write it down? Because when you go to publish something, that means it's for the masses. Anybody and everybody can have access to it. And so, in a spiritual point of view, that means he was making it accessible to all. And in the spiritual world, there was opposition. And that manifested itself in the physical world by having these opponents, these mitnagdim. They were opponents. That was just the manifestation of what was going on in the spiritual world. And the Alter Rebbe suffered so greatly. He was thrown into jail and suffered a lot. Not just him, but his Chassidim. They were getting beat up in the streets. They were by Jews. Jews would get the authorities, Russian authorities, to they would tell lies. The Jews would tell lies just to get them in jail. They thought their work was very holy, and what they were doing was very holy. So you can imagine, fervent, religious person living by an ideology. He'll do anything he can to destroy the opponent. We see that today. Thank God, not by the Jews, but by other people. So they did anything they could. They would lie and then throw him in jail. And the Alter Rebbe felt, I'm putting not only myself at risk, okay, I put myself at risk, but I'm putting other people at risk. Is it really worth what I'm doing? Am I really doing the right thing? He was unsure. He went 53 days in jail. And he sat down to say some Tehillim on the 53rd day. And he said, the pasuk, the passage that we read today in the halacha class, right over here from King David, in the 55th Psalm number 55. He started with the words Pada v'shalom nafshi, mikrovli. Hashem redeemed my soul in peace. Ki berabim hayu imadi, from the battle that came upon me, because the many people who were with me. And as soon as he started saying these words, he was told that he was going to leave. And he was redeemed. He was let out of jail. And all was fine, hunky-dory. But everything that happens, the Baal Shem Tov says, everything that you see and you experience needs to be a lesson in avodas Hashem and your service to God. So what, and how much more so with tzaddikim, righteous people who, their neshamas, their souls are the souls of Atzilus, if you want to know in a Kabbalistic term. Yeah, most of us come from, our souls are from the world of Asiya, the lowest of the worlds. Yeah, we really connect with this physical world, with materialism. We don't see what's going on in the worlds above, what's happening right now in the spiritual world. Yeah, sometimes our mazel is a little bit stronger and we can sense certain things, but for the most part, we're eyes and boots to the ground. However, with the tzaddik, he lives in this. He's from he comes from the world of Atzilus, and they remain in the world of Atzilus, the highest level where godliness is very revealed, and they see in the physical, they see the spiritual. So he sees, when it was a very significant moment when he was reading from this pasuk, this passage, which talks about, this psalm talks about King David's praise to Hashem, that he was redeemed, that he was always on the run. Yeah, he was being killed. People were always trying to kill him, and he wrote this psalm and thanks to Hashem, and wrote this line: Hashem redeemed my soul in peace. Incredibly, from those that were really close to me, my enemies, because there were many people. There were many people against me, because of the many people who helped me out. So you're saying thank you to Hashem for getting, and thank you to all those aides that helped him get out. And why do we say that in Shulchan Aruch? Because we said a man should do everything he can, should really work hard to try to daven with a minyan, with 10 other men, because Hashem answers us more quickly when we are together in a group. It's better to daven in a group. It's much more, when Hashem sees his children working together and asking for something all in one, in unison, he's like, oh, cutie little patooties. Yeah, I'll get you what you need. Now, the problem, what Chassidus is going to do, and what the Alter Rebbe is trying to emphasize, there's something very significant going on over here, and in this pasuk, in this passage, and the fact that it was connected with the day that he left prison. Oh, let me just tell you, the day he left prison is called Yutes Kislev, the 19th day of Kislev, which is coming up in 1 month from now. It is called the Rosh Hashanah for Chassidus. And it's not just celebrated amongst Chabad Chassidim, but all Chassidim celebrate it now, even beyond just Chassidim celebrate this day. Because this day, the significance of this day, the Alter Rebbe understood and the Alter Rebbe saw, and those who were able to see, that Hashem agreed with the spreading of Chassidus. It could be written down, and to a whole new level. Not that it should just be written down and published, and there everyone can see it, but now take it to a whole new gear, and do everything you can to try to make it understandable to even a 5-year-old kid. Because this is the Torah of Mashiach. This is the foretaste of the world of Mashiach's arrival. And there's a concept in Shabbos, there's a concept in Halacha that you should taste a little bit of Shabbos before Shabbos comes in. So, if you make kugel, not challah, but like kugel or chicken or whatnot for Shabbos, Friday night, you should taste a little bit before, because you should get that aroma, you should get that feel. You got to get into the Shabbos mode. You got to know what to expect, and therefore you'll prepare properly. So the Alter Rebbe understood, and Chassidim understood, as they understood with generations before. We're getting much closer to Mashiach's arrival, and this was like a stamp of approval from Hashem saying, yes, buckle your seatbelts. We're about to go into higher gear. The world is about to change. there's about to be a strong spiritual yearning, not just amongst the Jewish people, but all of the world is about to have a strong spiritual yearning, and they're going to be thirsting for such a thing, for such ideas and concepts. How to see godliness in the world? Who is God? What is God? What does He want from me? The Alter Rebbe knew that, and it's the Rosh Hashanah at the beginning of the year for Chassidus. So we renew our resolutions. We make new resolutions in our study of Chassidus and acting in a way of a Chassid, as a Chassid should act, which starts with being joyful. Anyway, so he's going to break apart this pasuk, and it's going to encapsulate the whole idea of Chassidism, of Chassidus, and how to deal with the world. So it's more of an introduction tonight, but we'll expand upon it as time goes, and hopefully by the time Yotes Kislev comes around, especially Tes Kislev, when the Mittler Rebbe was thrown in jail, let me just tell you something. All the Chabad Rebbes were thrown in jail. And every time they got out, there was a big celebration. Now, from a very simple level, it's a big celebration because, okay, they're free. Yeah, they got back out of jail. But there's always, what happens is when you get thrown out of jail, when there was what's called a padiyah, a redemption, there's a whole new energy that's brought into the world. Something is about to change. There's a whole new way of looking at the world and dealing with the world. It's called Yerida Letzorech Aliyah. There's a concept, it's a fundamental concept in Chassidus, that all descents are for the sake of an ascent. I know you've heard me say that many times because it's a fundamental concept. The example that I like to give is when you want to throw a baseball really far, you have to cock your hand back. The further you throw it back, seemingly that's the opposite direction of where you want the ball to go. But no, silly. You have to build up all that energy, that momentum that'll help you with your momentum, and then you can throw it forward. If you just go like this, it's not going to go as far as, obviously, you can throw it back even further. This is a concept, a fundamental concept of Chassidus, that when you have something very negative going on in your life, seemingly a void, especially a vacuum, a void, a strong descent, the Torah assures you that if you can keep your mind on the goal, it's really part of the game. It's really going to be part of your ascension. Like stock market, for example. Yeah, the stock market goes down. Why is it a good time to buy? It's not only a good time to buy when it goes down because it will for sure, based on historical facts and history, it'll go back up. But it climbs back up extremely fast, much faster than you can expect. And in fact, it even says, if you want to know, that the biggest gains happen in single days. Yeah, so let's say the market goes down 2%. The market goes down 10, 20%. It might go up 2%, it might go back down 1%, goes up 3%, goes down 3%, and then all of a sudden it'll go up 6%. And then it'll go back down 2. And then it'll go back up 1, 2, 8%. Like huge jumps that normally would never happen, but usually it's followed by a great descent. There's a lot of propelling, there's a lot of reason people, whatever the reason is that the market goes back up, greed and fear, obviously, but nevertheless, they move it faster. Once there's good momentum, you move it faster. So anytime when they get out of jail, there's a whole new change happening. So the Alter Rebbe, we're going to explain what does it mean, Pada v'shalom nafshi. Now, the whole pasuk doesn't make sense. This passage says, He redeemed my soul with peace. But really, if you read it, He redeemed my soul in peace, during peace. Hashem, King David saying he redeemed my soul during a state of peace. That doesn't make any sense. You don't need any redemption when times are peaceful. Yeah, you need redemption when you're stuck in prison. Yeah, something's wrong. So what does it mean in peace? And we're going to have to understand what, there are 3 types of wars that are fought. and then what are their results. So, and something else we're going to need to understand is King Solomon, it was the first time, which is the son of King David. King David lived through a lot of war and a lot of bloodshed. Now, God told him to go through all these wars. And when King David finished all the wars, he came to God and said, okay, I want to build the Holy Temple. I want to build the first base of Mikdash, the Holy Temple. God said, no, you can't because you have too much blood on your hands. Now, it's kind of unfair because God was the same one that told him to go fight these wars. But nevertheless, God said you can't do it. Your son will be the one to do it. But you will have a chelik, you'll have a portion in the building of the temple, and you can draw up the plans. You can find the place, the mountain in which the temple should be built, which was Mount Moriah, Har HaMoriah, in the holy city of Jerusalem, which is where it is today. So King David knew that, whatever, he had different reasons, different ways of figuring it out. We always knew, we had a tradition of always where it was. That's where the binding of Isaac, which took place a couple of days ago in our Torah portion, that's where it took place. That's where Adam and Eve were formed. A lot of stuff happened. Yaakov fell asleep over there. A lot of stuff happened over there. So we always knew we had a tradition of where that was. So King David did that. He made the plans. There's tunnels that are deep underneath the Holy Temple. He did all that, and King Solomon was one that actually built the temple. And it says why Solomon, what's his Hebrew name? Shlomo. Shlomo comes from the word shalom, peace. And he was given that name because it was a time of peace. It was the matziv, it was the situation of the Jewish people at the time. It says that during King Shlomo's life, there was 2 times in our history where the moon never waxed and waned. Now, I don't know how this works, how that dealt with the tides. Hashem can do anything, so I guess it wasn't really a problem. The sun was, the moon was always full during the times of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and during the times of King Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon. Not only that, there was never a rainbow that was shown. If you remember, rainbows was introduced after the flood, and Hashem said that this is my sign that I'll never destroy the world again. And we spoke about, we don't look at rainbows, right? We make the blessing, but we don't look at it. We don't stare at rainbows. Sorry, but just to help you, in Judaism, the number 13, even though it's unlucky in the rest of the world, 13 is a great number. So you want to live on the 13th floor, sit in seat number 13, all good. But I know the rest of the world loves rainbows. In Judaism, we try not to stare at rainbows. Some people don't even, some circles don't even make a blessing on the rainbow. We do it in Chabad, we make a blessing on the rainbow. But there was never a rainbow during the times of the Rashbi, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, as well as King Shlomo, because there was such peace. And I think there was a queen. I don't think it was Cleopatra. There was a queen in Africa, a very famous queen. I just forgot for a moment. She came to visit him, and she was very taken by him. But why was there peace during that period of time? It's not because they loved Israel. It's because we were so powerful that everyone was afraid. Everyone was afraid of us. And that's not true peace. Even though they said during the times of King Shlomo, there was never a joy amongst the Jewish people like there was during that period of time. We had the Holy Temple and everything was kicked into high gear, the Kohen Gadol, and he had the Urim and Tumim, and we had Nevuah, we had prophecy, and we were at our prime. It was an incredible time to live and be a Jew. Nevertheless, it was not the times of Mashiach, because the peace and we could see that because of the peace at the time was not because the world saw the truth, so to speak, or understood and believed and were holding by the truth, but it was just because out of fear of the Jewish people, because we were so powerful and so strong that they didn't start out with us. So we're going to talk about a different kind of peace, a kind of peace that can only happen with Mashiach, but it can happen now. You can have it in a personal level. It says that Mashiach will come when everybody on a personal level has their own personal padiyah, has their own personal redemption. Now, it's not it's not Mashiach's arrival is not talui. It's not dependent on that. Each person having their own personal redemption, but that helps speed the process. To be clear, we'll have to do a class one day on what does the world have to look like before Mashiach's arrival. It's not what you think. Anyway, we will get into all that, and I will say like this, just to not leave it on such a cliffhanger. We have to talk about war. There are three types of war. There's a war, says the Torah, where you deal with missiles and arrows and catapults from afar away. That's one level of war. It's kind of a low level of war. Now, obviously, it can be very destructive, but nevertheless, it's not as intense. The intensity level is not as great as the others, as I'll say. The second level is through swords, or perhaps like urban warfare, shooting of guns. You live out, you're very close combat. That's much more intense than I think. Perhaps bombs you can run away, so to speak. I guess thank God I've never lived through a war. But the third type of war is the most intense, and that's hand-to-hand combat, wrestling. Like the Gemara says, the Torah says, the wrestling of Yaakov and Esau's angel, the angel of Esau, which we will learn about in a couple of parshias from now, a couple of parshas in a couple of weeks. That's the most intense. And that's called krav. It's called krav, that type of war. And that type of war is the one we're talking about here in King David's Psalm. Pada v'shalom nafshi, Hashem redeemed my soul, mikrav. During the time of krav, I was redeemed in peace. So you can imagine these two guys. It's not just any type of, it's not like one beat the other one and now it's peaceful. That's not peace. Peace is not, I'm stronger than you and you're afraid of me, and therefore it's peace. That's not peace. The other person is just still angry, and if they get a chance, they probably will start the war up again. Peace means it's the complete opposite of krav. Krav means I literally want to kill you with my hands. My whole essence, my whole being wants to destroy you. But then there's b'shalom. All of a sudden, there's this shalom, there's this peace. I will now be transformed into your best friend. How does that happen? How is that possible? And that's the type of war and peace that we're talking about over here, and that's what we'll continue to learn next week, God willing. And anybody have any questions? Yeah. Oh, Miriam, can I see you? Anybody have a question? Okay. Unmute yourselves if you have any questions.
No, I don't have.
Oh, okay. Raise your hand. Okay. Okay, so we will continue next week. Tomorrow, God willing, we'll have a sitter class. And then Rabbi Schneer. No, I don't teach tomorrow. Rabbi Schneer will have a class. And tomorrow night, Mordechai Goodman will have a class. And we'll meet back up on Thursday with a sitter class. All right. Have a good night, everybody.